Hi guys, thanks for joining me. The topic today is trade axes and modern equivalents or near equivalents. And what I have today is a simple axe, very similar in form to a trade axe, in that it has a round eye, not an oblong eye like most tomahawks sold today, or triangular, rounded triangular eye like hatchets today, but round. The advantage to that is it's easier to take a sapling or a branch and craft your own handle. So this was favored, the round eye was favored, I believe, by natives in early American colonial history, and it's still favored in remote areas, Central America, South America, India, parts of Asia. So this one isn't a copy. It wasn't sold for like reenactors or as a reproduction. It's just an inexpensive axe that's still used in the same way. So let's say my only tool was the axe head. Don't have a handle yet. I can use the axe head to make an axe, make its own handle. So I need a baton, nothing fancy necessarily. Let's have a little bit of structural strength. There we go. Maybe a little bit smaller than that. That's good enough. I'm thinking of harvesting this tree here. And how I can tell it's the right size, I just measure it with the eye. Use that as my sighting glass. Understanding that I'm going to be taking off the bark and the inner bark. It looks like this section might work well for me. And then this turns into a little bit of a knob, so the head won't go any further than that. Get those out of the way. And then I wouldn't want to hit this with a steel hammer very many times. A wooden baton should be okay. A little awkward. Just so you know, this tree is dead. It's broken off there. It was a very tall tree at one time, because all that is what broke off and fell to the ground. It's another 50 feet on the ground. That would. The axe is holding up well. I was wondering, because it's not made like the old trade axes. The blade looks hammered to me, like a blacksmith made that and actually hammered that. There's a lot of hammer marks. But then the eye looks to me like they had some flat stock and they're able to bend it very around. That's one piece of metal from flat stock, I think. Then they forged the blade, but there's a weld here and a weld here where they attached it to the eye. And from the few pictures I had on the eBay auction, it looked like that's how it was made. Wasn't sure. With a trade axe, it would be one piece of metal wrapped around here, and then there'd be one weld, and the method the blacksmiths did. But with this one, the blade is a completely separate piece of metal. But the weld does look good. Two welds. Even so, I was skeptical. That's really not the accepted method, at least not something a United States company would do. But it's holding up. That's the thing. Will it work? That's what I'm concerned with. And the edge on the blade is very crude. There's more than one time they put it on the grinder. There's more than one bevel. Not really sloppy. It does have something of an edge. I just wanted to test it out with the edge that it came with, and it does work, but it needs to be better. So I'll try to sharpen it. And then, is the metal strong enough that after I put an edge on it, it'll hold the edge? Will it be so soft it even bends over? I'm not sure. I believe even the antique trade axes, they had a separate piece of metal that they put there, and the blacksmith would weld it together and then pound it so it looked like one piece of metal, but actually there'd be a strip here of harder steel to give you the edge. But this, and I'm assuming, I don't know, I can't see how it's a separate piece on the front, so I'm assuming this is just one piece of metal. I believe it was made in India. I've seen documentaries of blacksmiths in India, and also shipbreakers. There's cargo ships that get so old that they've gone past their useful lifespan, and the shipping company is looking for a place to get rid of it, and almost nobody wants it. But there's places in India they can bring the ship then it's brought ashore somehow, and then they break up the hull of the ship and use the steel or the iron. So I'm wondering if that's where my axe head came from. And there is some sort of stamp on there. I can't make it out. Could be characters from a language I don't read. Maybe if I take a steel brush to it, remove some of the paint, I'll be able to see some sort of brand name or a maker's mark. So far so good. I threw it. Throwing is hard on an axe, and that didn't bother it at all, and was cutting some limbs and digging through a log, chopping through a log looking for fat wood. Actually harvested some fat wood, and so far so good. Could just use a better edge. It's cut through now, but it's too heavy for me to move alone, especially with the other end being tangled up with things. So I'll either have to cut through the other end or come back with a come along. Might come back with a come along because there's also a widowmaker across the trail. A guy came through carrying a deer months ago, and he had to get through here, and the boughs are still on the tree. So I think it was him. I saw the blood and I found the gut pile. But I think it was him that took a machete or one of these big survival knives people have, and he cut the boughs off. But it was hard for him, so he just left it like that. But I'll chop that off because people are going to be climbing over the log until it can be removed, right? This stubby one here. So the knife is good. It allowed him to do what he did. But with the hatchet, just so much easier. Of course, I'm even tired. But still, works well. Okay, so I've had the axe head for a few weeks. Not that, almost that. I've been using it a lot, not every day, but I've been using it a lot. And when I was filing the edge on it, I noticed that it was kind of soft for an axe head, and I was wondering if it was too soft, would this roll over or easily chip? But I chopped some limbs, and those were hardened oak. And I did a bunch of stuff, and then you just saw me chopping this pine log in half, and it still has the edge I put on it, no damage at all. So I'm going to recommend it with a disclaimer that it's not made properly, what we'd call properly in this country anyway, where the blade is separate and it's welded on here. But I think I can judge welds somewhat well, and I don't think that's ever going anywhere, and I've definitely used it. I carved a handle and just quickly, and if I remember right, it was aspen wood, just something soft, so I could carve it quickly, just get it done. And that's what I saw that was around the right diameter and straight and just available. But that's meant more for like furniture, or maybe you carve a ladle out of it. It's not really meant for tool handles. And I had a knob, and that's the knob's still holding it, but I don't want that to fly off and kill somebody, right? So at some point I got to retire it. But that's not the axe head's fault. You know, I was just showing you what you can do quickly. Really quickly, if I had to, I'd shove a pine branch in there and use it. I mean, being careful. If I'm the only one out in the woods, no one over my shoulder, you know. But the thing is, with the round eye, you can very quickly make a handle. If I use like maple or oak or elm, ash, something like that, it might take a little longer to carve. Let's see, I've been doing all that work. Can I get the handle off there now? See, it doesn't want to. Ah, there we go. So, you know, if I want to switch between carrying it on the trail, but then coming back to the camp and like cutting heavier stuff, you know, take off this handle, put on the longer handle. That's an intermediate size, I would say. It's a lot heavier than typical tomahawk. It's like a heavy hatchet, I would say, or a light axe, like a youth axe. So I could put on a two-handed handle, and I think that would hold it. So It's a recommendation. I'll keep using it. Recommendation for the price point and knowing what it is. Okay guys, I'm going to put the information for this particular axe head in the comments below in case you want to check it out, maybe get one for yourself. It's a small company, so I'm not sure how long they'll be in stock, but I'll be looking for more. If I do find them, I'll post that information below. And also in your area of the world, if you find one, and particularly if it's available on the internet, if you could leave a link in the comments, I'd appreciate it. But that's all for now. I'll be back as soon as I can. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul.